Hey everybody, welcome back to the homestead. Well, this past weekend we processed the 4 broad-breasted white turkeys that we've been raising here on the homestead. We started them back at the beginning of June, so they were about 3.5 months old when we processed them. These broad-breasted turkeys, they grow so fast. Every time we raise them, we're just amazed at how quickly and how big they get.
We were so surprised at their weight. When we processed them, we weighed all 4 of them, and the average live weight for these turkeys was 34 pounds.
At 3.5 months old.
They were awesome. We're so happy to have turkey meat for this next coming year. These 4 broad-breasted turkeys will be all the turkey meat that we have from now until this time next year. So we're really excited to show you now, after we've processed them and everything, what the weights are of these turkeys, so the amount of meat that we have to work with for the next year. And we're excited to show you what that all looks like after we have them parted out and packaged up, so we can share with you our plans for the next year of how to use all of this turkey.
Now, I want to remind you as well that we're also raising the blue slate turkeys, which are a heritage breed of turkeys, and we're hoping that by spring they'll be ready to start laying some eggs and actually be able to raise some of their own young. So that will be exciting. We'll be happy to have those next summer. We started with 6 of those. Unfortunately, just a week or so ago, we did lose one of them kind of unexpectedly, but the other ones are all doing great, so we don't suspect that there's anything wrong that is going to take any more of them. They're doing really well, and we're hoping that again by next summer we'll be raising some of those for meat as well.
Actually, those guys are getting big enough and mature enough that we can start to see which ones are males and females, and it looks like we have 1 male and 4 females, which is going to be absolutely perfect for breeding. Right.
So we're going to go out to the garage and grab the first turkey out of the refrigerator, and we'll be right back to show you what we're going to do with it. Alright, so here's the first turkey. Now I purposely brought in what I think is going to be the smallest out of the 4 because that's the one that we want to work on first. So let's take it over to the scale and see how much this one weighs. Alright, so 21.8 pounds. So that's a good sized turkey.
This turkey we're going to cut in half, because we like to smoke half of a turkey for the big holidays coming up. So we'll smoke half of this turkey for Thanksgiving and the other half for Christmas. So this entire turkey is just going to be used for 2 separate holiday meals. We're going to get this out of the bag, show you a better look of what it looks like, and then we're going to show you how we cut these babies in half. So even though this is the smallest of the 4 turkeys, this thing is humongous. The legs on this guy are huge. 21-pound turkey. This is amazing.
All right, so the first thing we're going to do is cut the neck off. These things have big necks. Now we always save the necks. Our daughter Samantha and I have kind of a tradition on the holidays when we're smoking a turkey that the neck always gets done probably twice as fast as everything else. And so it's our kind of tradition to sneak outside and we share the neck before the rest of the turkey is done. Nobody else is supposed to know that. It's just our secret. So.
Yeah, sure.
But I think after about 10 years everybody's caught on. But oh well. Alright, so we have the neck off and now we're going to get ready to actually cut the turkey in half. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is just take a knife and cut right down the breastbone. Just like that. And then you'll take a bone saw. Now we have this little saw. I'll be honest, I don't even remember where we got it, but we've had it for years and years and years. And we use this every year for cutting up things like turkeys. So it works out really well. It's just a little metal saw. And we'll just cut pretty sure we found this thing at a garage sale or something once.
Well, we have it cut in half, the breasts anyway. These are giant birds, and so this can actually be quite a chore. Not only this part, but the next part. Now that we've got the breast cut in half, we're gonna tip it upside down here and cut the backbone in half. I think what we have found over the years to be the easiest thing to do in this situation is to cut just on the other side of the backbone, not straight down the backbone. That's a lot of work and it takes a lot of time. So just on one side or the other of the backbone, and it's actually best to cut that big tail off.
Right. All right, so now that the tail is off, we'll just start cutting, and again, we'll go right down one side of the spine. I always find it easiest to take a knife first. If nothing else, you're kind of drawing yourself a line of where you're going to cut, which just makes it a little bit easier. There's not really much meat on the back here, but you can at least cut through the skin so you can kind of see where you're going to be cutting.
This is definitely a two-person job.
Right, and I do own a big bone saw, but honestly on an animal this size, this little saw is easier. There we go.
There. Two sides here. Let's put one over there if you'll help me.
Alright, so we'll put one over here on our platter. And we'll leave one there on the cutting board.
Aren't these beautiful? Now essentially we have two about 10-pound turkey halves. We are not going to have a big Thanksgiving or a big Christmas this year. I don't think we're planning on having anybody, no relatives, that kind of thing. So 10 pounds for just the four of us will be just fine, even with some leftovers. Now when you're planning your turkey for Thanksgiving, it's recommended that you plan for 1 pound of meat per person that's going to be there. So 10 pounds is going to be plenty for the four of us.
And the reason that we like to cut them in half is because I like to make them on my smoker, and they fit better on the smoker cut in half. If you're going to bake one in the oven, which is probably a more traditional thing to do, you might want to leave it whole. A lot of people like the look, you know, of the turkey as the centerpiece of the table, but for us, this works out really well.
Okay, so we are going to get these ready to package. These are both going in the freezer, so we're going to put them in some plastic and then wrap them in butcher paper. Okay, so I am going to get started freezing these two sides. I really like to have my meat frozen in two separate barriers, basically. So I always put the piece of meat in a plastic bag or some kind of plastic before I wrap it up into butcher paper. I think this plastic is a good second barrier to prevent freezer burn, but also it contains any of the juices that might leak out. I just like to have them in the bag. So these big pieces, I have these giant bags to put them in. The normal bags that I use just aren't big enough. They slide in there nicely. And I'm just going to gather these up and twist it. And I'm going to tie it. One thing when we're working with raw poultry or raw meat in the kitchen and we're doing packaging like this, I always have a sink full of hot bleach water so that in between these steps I can wipe everything down and sanitize everything just to make sure everything stays nice and clean and as sanitary as possible. Okay, next I just package it in freezer paper or butcher paper. This is plastic lined, so this side has plastic on it. Now, covering big pieces of meat like this with butcher paper or freezer paper, it's not always easy, and most of the time it's not pretty. I do generally use 2 different layers, so I'll package it like one way and tape it up, and then package it the other way and tape it up, so it is 2 layers. You just gotta do the best that you can and learn from every time that you package it. Now, we will go ahead and put a link to the freezer paper, butcher paper that we use in our Amazon shop if you guys want to learn more about it, and you can take a look for yourself. I also just use plain old masking tape to tape the paper. You can get, you know, special butcher paper tape, but I haven't found that there's anything extra special about that. And so we just use masking tape. I've used Scotch tape too, and that worked fine. Okay, second layer. Now, mine's not gonna look pretty either, but it'll all be okay. We've got both of our halves of our turkey wrapped up. I'm gonna throw these both back on the scale so I can write on here the weight of each of them. Now, one of them has the backbone and a neck, and the other one doesn't, so there's gonna be a little bit of a difference between the 2 sides. Okay, this half is 11.27 pounds, and this half is 10.12 pounds. Okay, here's the second one. Let's see how much this guy weighs. £26.5 pounds. So the rest of the 3 turkeys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to part them out individually and freeze them. So what I mean is every drumstick is going to be frozen separately. The thigh and each breast is going to be frozen separately so that we can use those for individual meals. That basically is how we're going to make these 4 turkeys stretch for the entire year. These bigger turkeys, just one of these cuts of meat is going to be plenty for an entire meal for our family. In some cases, there will be lots of leftovers. These breasts are really big. We'll end up weighing them when we package them, but these are definitely way more than 1 meal. So I'm gonna get cutting these up, packaging them in the plastic, and then putting them in the butcher paper.
All right, so like Sarah said, these next 3 turkeys, we're going to be parting them out. We're going to be cutting every individual piece off the turkey separately. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is take off the legs and the thighs. Now, if you've ever parted out a chicken, a turkey is just a really big chicken. So we'll start by just cutting around the leg and the thigh. And most of these things are pretty self-explanatory once you start cutting. You can just kind of figure out where the cuts need to go. So there is the leg and the thigh, and then we'll just separate those. And there's kind of a line, you can almost see where there was a difference in feathers or something. And then if you kind of move the bones a little bit, you can see right where those should be cut. So there we go, the leg and the thigh. Now, any parts that we're not going to use as, a meal, like, the backbone and some of that stuff, we'll be saving anyway because Sarah will use that to make turkey broth. So we'll take this guy and we'll just do the same thing on the other side. So there we go. There's the 2 legs and the 2 thighs. All right, so the next thing that we're going to take off is the neck and then the wings. So with the neck, we'll just cut. I try to get as far back as I can. Now, like I said, Samantha and I like the necks on the smoker. So these next 3 necks I'll just package together. And whenever we're going to smoke some meat, I'll put these necks on the smoker. If you didn't like them on the smoker, or you're not going to use them for anything else, you know, keep them with your stuff for your broth. They add a lot of good flavor to your broth. Alright, now for the wings, we'll just flip the bird over. And again, you can kind of see, I mean, there's always, on just about every cut, there's a natural line of where you should cut. And you just got to kind of move things around until you can see where the bones are, where the joints are. And like anything, the more times you do it, the easier it gets. There you go. That's a good hot wing right there. A couple dozen of those would be good. Alright, we'll do the same thing on the other side. There we go. There's the 2 wings. So now all that's left is getting the breasts off of there. We'll just take our knife and we'll go right down along these bones here on both sides. And our goal right now is just to get them detached from the backbone. And again, turkeys are a lot stronger than chickens, so make sure you have a good sharp knife. And the spine will come right off. You always have to find that joint where the bones and the meat are. Alright, so the back is detached. That'll go over here. Again, that'll be used just for making broth. Alright, so now we have the 2 breasts. I mean, these things are huge. So we'll just take our knife. You always want to do as much cutting with your knife as possible before you resort to using a saw or anything else. Your knife is your best tool. So we'll cut with our knife. To where we just hit solid bone. Then we'll take our little saw. Alright, so there's the 2 breasts. Now, if you don't have a bone saw of some kind, you could definitely just take your knife and cut all the meat off the bone. It would be super easy and just do boneless turkey breasts. We like to leave the bone on just because we feel like when you cook it, it makes it a little more juicy, a little more tender to have the bone in there, a little more flavor maybe. But you could definitely do boneless and you'd still be good. So there we go, look at that. There's the breasts, the back so we can make broth, and the wings, the thighs, and the legs. This is all going to get put into the freezer. There won't be a single thing wasted, and this will be great food for this coming year.
So now I'm just going to package up each of these parts. I have each half of the breast already in one bag, but I like to double bag these 2 just because they're so big. A couple things I decided to do as we've been working here. The backbones, I'm not going to freeze. I'm actually just going to get those started into broth right away. I have some really big roaster ovens. One of them is bigger than the other. So the biggest one I'll put in 2 of the turkey backs. The smaller one I'll put in 1 turkey back, fill it up with the water and all of the seasonings and things that I put in there, and I'll just take care of doing broth right away, and I'll can that. The wings, we're going to package both the wings, 2 from each turkey. We're going to package those together into one package. The legs I will package and freeze separately, as well as the thighs. The necks we're gonna put all in one bag. So that's what I'm working on now.
Well, there you go, you guys. Look how much turkey we ended up with from 4 turkeys. It ended up being 88.5 pounds of meat that we can put in the freezer. That's just over 22 pounds per turkey. And then on top of that, we put all of the backs into the pots to make broth. And Sarah thinks we'll get at least 12 quarts of broth for over the winter.
So we have 24 packages of meat here. Lots of these are going to be multiple meals, but especially the halves, the turkey halves for Thanksgiving and for Christmas. But with 24 packages, that means at least every other week we can have turkey as a main meal for supper.
Yeah, these breasts are definitely, I mean, probably 2 or 3 meals. Probably 2 dinners and at least lunch for Sarah and I while the kids are at school. I mean, this is going to be awesome stuff. This is awesome. And this is why, even though we're raising the heritage breed turkeys and have those as breeders so that we can be hatching our own, this is why we also raise the broad-breasted, because they just produce so much so fast, and it's a great value for the money that you're going to spend to raise them.
So you guys, if you are considering growing some of your own meat animals on the homestead, we really recommend you try turkeys, especially these broad-breasted turkeys. They have white broad-breasted and the bronze broad-breasted, and they're both fabulous animals to have, and they produce a ton of meat.
The thing on our homestead is we always try to have a source to be sustainable, which is why we're raising those heritage breeds. We know that they'll be able to stay on the homestead long term, and if we need to, we can hatch our own. But these broad-breasted, if you can get a hold of them while the hatcheries are open and you can get them, this is definitely the way to go. They produce a ton of meat super fast.
Right. So you guys, we hope this encouraged you to maybe do a little bit more on your homestead for your family. If you're enjoying our channel, if you're enjoying videos like this, please make sure that you hit the subscribe button. And the best thing that you can do to help our family and our homestead is to share our channel and our videos with people you know who are like-minded. Until next time, you guys, thank you so much for stopping by our homestead. Take care and God bless.
God bless.